Well, hello and good morning, peace friends.
Peace, Tiffany.
Peace, Tiffany.
Hey, I'm glad to see you guys' beautiful faces on this morning. I'm Tiffany Norday, the worship producer here at the South Lansing Campus, and I'm here with my beautiful co-host.
Hi, I'm
Carola. So you guys are joining us as we're finishing up a series of No Offense, and today's sermon is focused on when forgiveness seems impossible.
I know we've all been there.
Yes.
And
it might
some
still be
of us
there.
are right there right now. Yeah.
So we have this service is going to stretch us a little bit.
I think so. We're ready with our tissues.
Yep.
We're ready to be emotionally charged. Yeah.
Because that's what the Word of God is meant to do, is to stretch us, to strengthen us,
to call us, to convict us. Yeah.
To push us further and closer to Him.
That's right.
And so today we also have some special guests with us. We have a DJ back with us, DJ Genesis over here, and Lucas Holiday as our guest singer. So we're super stoked and excited about having them with us to kind of guide us through this service. So as our opening question, I don't know if a lot of you guys maybe have heard about it or not. I know this is something Pastor Tom brought to our attention and wanted us to bring it up, is that on last night there was another mass shooting that occurred in Buffalo, New York. And it involved a young white male who was
he was intending to harm.
Yep, intending to harm black individuals, and went to a grocery store, and 10 people died and 13 people got shot. And so the police have now declared it as a hate crime, and he's under custody. And so that is something that definitely, as our community, we believe that's something that grieves the heart of God, and that was not something that is part of God's plan that needs to happen, and it's definitely something that's hard this morning.
May notice that you have sticky notes that Nancy came around, or if you're online with us, we want to you to share or to express your feelings or your prayers for those involved, wherever you are this morning with what has happened and however you are processing. And Lucas is going to sing for us, I Understand, and help us to get through this time.
Sometimes I feel like giving up. Seems like my best just ain't good enough. Lord, if you hear me, I'm calling you. Do you see, do you care all about what I'm going through? And then he said, one more day, one more step. See, I'm preparing you for myself. And when you can't hear my voice, please trust my plan. I'm the Lord, I see, and yes, I understand. But sometimes I feel like I'm all alone. I'm just like a stranger, so far from home. I feel like I've done all that I can do. Please, Lord, give me strength. I'm just trying to make it through. That's when he told me, oh, one more step, yeah. Oh, my child, I'm preparing you for myself. And when you can't hear my voice, please I understand. Whoa, and he knows just how much we can bear. And in the time of trouble, he promised he would always be there. I understand. The Lord is telling you, yes, I understand. I am the Lord. I see you, and yes, I understand. This is what he says. I am the Lord, I changeth not. I won't forget, nor have I forgot. See, everything works according to my plan. I am God, trust me, I got the whole world in my hands. One more step, yeah. I'm preparing you for myself. And when you can't hear me speaking, if you can't hear my voice, please trust my plan. I am the Lord. I see you, and yes, I understand. Every problem, every trial, every tribulation, I'll be there for you whenever you ask. Whenever you ask me to be there. Yeah, 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 yeah. I understand, understand. Thank you, Jesus.
Thank God for songs like that.
Oh
that
my
just
gosh.
come to minister in hard times and situations,
Yeah.
just to give us a reminder
I got tears in
that-
my eyes.
that God understands, but there also is a plan. But also not to be misconstrued that it was definitely not God's plan for what happened last night to happen, but how can we
Right.
as Christians explore how we can better be part of God's plan of justice and love and how to,
So often my friends who struggle with belief ask, why do bad things happen if God exists? And, a lot of what we say is that's a reflection of us in humanity, that bad
the
things happen
brokenness.
because of the brokenness, and that God turns them into the good things. And it's a difficult thing to wrestle with, because we so often want, a magic wand to fix everything, and it's not always like that.
Yeah, I think that's super hard. I find myself asking, like, how long?
Yeah.
How long, oh Lord, how long?
Yeah.
that is
And
definitely the question.
it's there's not really an easy answer to that question.
Right.
I also, sorry about that. If I could just comment real quick. I also feel that through the many pains we have, we realize that, the superior power, the higher power, our God, is, he is justice, he is fairness, he is truly equality, he is compassion, love, but within us, sometimes we just can't see it. And that's why hopefully we can, do whatever kind of outreach we can do and just try to live in some way in that light, and that truth,
Yeah.
And I just hope that we can figure it out, because it's, again, like Gretchen said, it's been a long road. It's a long road. So how long are we going to keep doing it?
Right.
Yes. Yes. Well, with that, I'm going to say, hey kids, you can head on upstairs to Kids Creek and enjoy snack and story with your teachers. You see Mr. Tim back there. Awesome. And if you'd please, if you are online with us this morning, or you want to get notifications about when we're live and worshiping, or when we're having events, you can like or share and subscribe to our YouTube or Facebook page, and that helps us stay connected with you digitally. Prayers and the connection card, you can head to sycamorecreekchurch.org/connect or fill them out. We've got first serve opportunities this week. with the Memorial Day Sunday at Potter Park. So if you want to sign up to serve in some way, that is super helpful. And I find
That's
it
gonna
totally
be a fun day.
It totally recharges my soul to serve. That's what I find. So connect with us there, and you can put those in the blue buckets or hit submit online. When you fill out that connection card for the first time, you will get this free book, You'll Get Through This by Max Lucado. I have not read this book yet, and I'm starting to seriously consider it. So I've heard it's very helpful. Maybe it will lead some insight into some of the things we're talking about today. Another way that we connect online with our online community is through selfies. This shows guests and new people who we are at Sycamore Creek, who the community is, and you can connect with us there using the hashtag SCCMI. And our selfie of the week this week comes from our small group, Men on an Island. They meet regularly, and this is from a couple weeks ago at their meeting. We have our small groups group link now, and you can sign up for a group by heading to sycamorecreekchurch.org/small groups or filling out on your connection card. So join a small group, take some selfies, enjoy time this summer with new friends and making connections. And with that, our message today on forgiveness and when it seems impossible begins with this.
When Micah was about 2 or 3 years old, he was sitting here at the kitchen table in his high chair. Now this high chair was like an antique high chair. We were eating like tacos or nachos or something, and all of a sudden we saw Micah kind of have this weird expression, and somehow like a nacho chip had gotten lodged in his throat. And I sat down next to him to just make sure he's gonna be okay, and his face started to turn blue. And when I looked at him in the eyes, his eyes got huge, and they had this look of terror, the look of death, of fear that I had never seen before. And I pulled him out of the seat, and I lay him on my forearm with his chest right there. And I start wailing on his back, bang, bang, bang. The banging dislodges this thing that's stuck in his throat, and he coughs it up. And before he gets a chance to get a breath in, he just starts puking everywhere. He's like, puke is coming like longer and faster and harder than I've ever seen a kid. Like everything that's in his stomach just goes everywhere. And then that moment that every parent wants to hear, the deep intake of breath. Oh, man. I handed him to his mother, who takes him back to the bathroom, gets him all cleaned up. I look down at myself. I've got puke all over me. And while I had stayed calm through the whole thing, once we were through it, I just fell apart. I absolutely fell apart. Now, I tell that story to illustrate this verse that Paul, the first missionary of the church and the author of many of the books of the Bible, says in Colossians. For God has rescued us from the kingdom of darkness. Now, what's really interesting about what Paul says here is that God has rescued us. He doesn't say God will rescue us like it's in the future. He says, no, it's already happened. The rescue mission of Jesus has already happened. The Greek word here is raiome, which means to draw to oneself, to rescue from destruction, which makes me think not just of that moment that I had with Micah here at this table in his high chair, but this video that I saw. It was an absolutely crazy video of this mom with super quick reaction. Here, watch it with me. The kid does what all little kids do, like while she's waiting at the door, she goes over, and then all of a sudden she bends down. Oh my God! Whoa! That's absolutely insane. That mom saved that child from destruction, from a kingdom of darkness. God is like that mom who saves us from a kingdom of destruction. So here's a question I have for you. When was a time that either you were rescued from or you rescued someone from certain destruction. Let's talk about that.
My heart
I know, with that video.
stopped. I was,
I can't handle it.
Who didn't envision their own kid?
Right?
I know, that's what.
well, because that can happen to anyone.
Oh, yeah.
It can happen, things like that.
And kids are really curious.
They
They're
are.
very.
They're curious.
They're gonna go looking over the edge of stuff.
Yes. Well, and they're not always careful. And they're not always, and it's hard because you have to find that balance between being a helicopter parent and.
Yeah, but give it up for that mom and that quick instinct.
Oh
and
my gosh,
because
right?
I don't know if I would have.
Yeah.
I hope I would have been that quick.
Yes.
But yeah.
I mean, I feel like if I wasn't that quick, I would have dived down after.
But you had a story.
Yeah, I did. Okay, so recently in my neighborhood there was a little bit of construction and there was trucks on either side of the street, which makes it very hard to see, and they had also blocked the sidewalk near my house off, so I couldn't walk on the sidewalk. And Dean and I were walking to pick my daughter up from school. We had looked, checking the oncoming traffic and everything, and we go to cross the street, and this person zooms through the middle, and I scoop up Dean like as quick as I could. I felt so like my heart was thrumming for an hour after
For
that.
sure.
It was, be careful while you're driving, be careful while you're walking, and be careful when you can't see.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Tabitha on Facebook has a crazy story. She says when she was 5 years old, she was walking on a cliffside with her parents and brother. She stepped in a pile of leaves and it was just air. My foot and body stepped off the creek cliff. My stepmother grabbed me by my pinky, and that's how I was saved.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
I was like,
God, in that moment.
Just by the skin, yeah.
Right?
That's just natural instinct.
Oh
Maybe
my
it's
gosh,
motherly
yes.
instinct, I don't know, but that's powerful. Yeah.
I've seen the dad reflex videos.
Oh, yeah, that too.
know,
Yeah,
where
that's
they
like-
they catch their children from
Oh
falling.
yeah, I've seen that
Yeah.
before.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Yeah. Life is a little intense.
It is, but thank God for being able to, for him catching us like that in those moments.
Yes,
But, yeah.
absolutely.
So let's go back to the message and see where else time takes us.
We've all got crazy stories, just like my story with Micah or that mom's story with that little child. Thank you, God, for being saved from certain destruction, rescued from certain destruction. Now, Paul goes on in this passage to talk about not just what we were rescued from, but what we were rescued for. Listen to what else he says. For God has rescued us from the kingdom of darkness and transferred us into the kingdom of his dear Son. We're not just saved from something, we're saved to something, the kingdom of the Son. And once you're in the kingdom, now it's just a matter of apprenticeship. It's like discipleship. How do you live in this kingdom? What's the culture of this kingdom? And Paul describes right off the bat what the culture of this kingdom is. He says, Jesus purchased our freedom and forgave our sins. One of the first things that Paul says about this kingdom and the culture of this kingdom that you got to apprentice to is that it is a kingdom of forgiveness. And that has both a vertical component and a horizontal component. I mean, there's the forgiveness of God for us and our debts and sins and brokenness. And then there's the horizontal forgiveness of us forgiving the things that people have done to harm us, who are around us. Those two things, like the vertical and the horizontal, they go hand in hand. They go together. Whenever we talk about forgiveness as a church, I feel like I got to put some disclaimers on it. And that's because the church has really abused this idea of forgiveness, I think, in many ways. So here's 4 disclaimers about forgiveness as we get into this message today. Here's the first one. Forgiveness does not mean staying in an unsafe situation. It doesn't mean that if you forgive somebody, you need to stay there where it's unsafe. No, go find a safe place. The second thing that forgiveness does not mean is reinstating immediate trust. You can forgive somebody, but trust often has to be rebuilt, depending especially on how bad the harm was. Now, the third thing that forgiveness does not mean is releasing an expectation of repair. Now, you might release that expectation of forgiveness, but not necessarily. If somebody hits your car and you forgive them for the stupid thing they did, it doesn't mean that you necessarily have to say, well, you don't also have to fix my car. And the fourth thing that forgiveness does not mean is forgetting it ever happened. Forgiveness is not amnesia, friends. We don't just erase like big parts of our life, parts of our story when we forgive people. No, we still remember them. In fact, you may be wondering, well, what is forgiveness then? Here's my favorite definition of forgiveness that I've come across. Forgiveness means actively working toward remembering differently. Now, this remembering differently, I mean, this is a process for most of us. It's not something often that happens like immediately. But occasionally it does. Sometimes it happens really quickly, like really fast. But depending on the amount of harm that was done, sometimes this forgiveness is a process that goes really slowly, over an entire lifetime. Now I want to show you something in the garage to make this whole point. Hey, come out in the garage with me. Hey, come on over here. I want to show you my childhood bike. I mean, this right here. This is my orange Predator bike that my dad bought me this thing. One day when I was in 6th grade, I left this bike on the porch of our townhouse, and the next morning it was gone. I was heartbroken, absolutely heartbroken. My dad got really worked up about this. He put out like these flyers and a $200 reward, $200 reward for a tip to lead back to finding this bike. I mean, you already know how the story ends, right? Because here's the bike. And we plaster the whole neighborhood with these flyers, like all the stores, everything. And like a day later, we get a tip. A teenage guy had seen it and stole it and was trying to hide it. And we got it back. Nobody asked me at the time that my bike was stolen if I was willing to forgive this guy. But as I think back on it now, like if you had asked me, I don't think I would have been willing to forgive him in 6th grade. I mean, he stole the thing that was like one of my, if not my most prized possession. Now I look back on it and I remember the whole thing differently. In fact, it feels to me like it was like this big, huge family adventure that the whole neighborhood got involved with. And we eventually, well, we found the bike. And as I've grown older and been involved as a pastor, I've grown to like nuance who people are and learned that, you know, hurt people hurt people. This young man probably was hurt in some way, and in the process he was hurting me and my family and stealing my bike. But the whole point of this message isn't really about the bike. It's that I remember the whole thing differently than I did at the time. I've forgiven this guy. I mean, completely. I have no ill will towards him at all. That's the magic of forgiveness. We remember differently. And sometimes that happens really quickly. Sometimes it happens slowly as a process. Hey, I got another question for you. When was a time that you had a pain that you now remember differently? Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I definitely love Tom's definition.
Yes.
It's like a breath of fresh air to me when I hear that. Actively working towards remembering different.
Yes.
I love that. And I think the first time I've heard him say that, I told him that. I was like, stop. I love that definition.
Repeat, yes. Actively
Rewind.
Rewind, yes. It speaks to the hurt in us.
Yep.
And the need for reconciliation, the need for repair through that remembering differently.
Right, because I feel like that definition gives way for both repentance and forgiveness to actively be involved in possible reconciliation to form.
Yes.
Unlike what a lot of us have heard over the years, forget and forgive. I heard that as a little kid.
Yeah.
I was like, that just doesn't sound right.
Kind of seems like you just get a pass for being hurtful. Yeah.
Right.
Because I'm Christian or something. I don't think it works that way.
Yeah. What are people saying online?
Nothing.
Oh, okay, so they're still thinking about this. Okay.
They don't want
It is a hard question. It is a hard question.
It reminds me of when I dated a guy in 2011, and then again in 2012. We broke up and got back together. And both times when we broke up, like, I was completely devastated. Like, I don't really remember a time before that I felt as awful as I felt then. Like, I was so in love, and now when I look back on it, like, there was a reason that it happened. Like, I wouldn't have my children if that hadn't happened, and I don't feel that devastating pain that I did back then. But at the time, I just thought, like, I'm never gonna get over this. This is the worst thing that's ever happened to me, Like,
so you eventually got to that point of remembering different.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Lucas, you got any thoughts over there?
I've definitely been at that same kind of situation of relationships, and we're all going through relationships, we're all going through human connections, and when we hurt each other, this happens, and we have to figure that out. But I also dealing with grief, the loss of my father was a hard one, where there was a time where I had to I was blaming God at one point, and then I had to look back and like, okay, well, maybe it's something that, this is just a part of life, and I had to forgive myself for the things I did after,
Yes.
I had to realize, because I did some things that I'm not proud of at that time, and just running away from life, but yeah, I eventually was able to figure that out. I'm just now figuring it out, actually, so.
That hurt people, and, I worked with that a lot in therapy through my own war path of teenage destruction. Just absolutely, definitely hurting people all over the place. And how can I forgive myself from that perspective? How can I remember differently? And the people that I hurt, how can I remember?
Dwayne on Facebook said, what makes me remember differently is having more information and perspective.
Yes,
That's
understanding.
good.
I thought that was really good.
That's very good.
I agree.
Genesis?
Yep. So yeah, I was listening to that question, and I had to think about it. In my a couple years ago, I was married, and in that marriage, I was wronged, I'll say, but the forgiveness aspect came into play when God had me pray for the two people that wronged me, and I was like, I'm not praying
You're
for
like,
them.
why?
You got me messed up. And he's like, no, you're going to pray for them, and you're going to pray for them by name. Because it had to go full circle to a time almost 15 years ago when I put somebody else in the very same situation.
Wow.
So
God
going
really
back
likes,
to,
he pushes us.
going back to remembering a situation differently. And not only that, but the person, this is how God works. The person that I put into that situation 15 years ago helped me out of the situation I was put in.
Wow.
Okay,
So talk about
y'all
remembering
tapping into the message right
Yeah.
now. So.
This thing is a cycle, yeah.
Perspective and understanding.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
Wow.
All right, that's some good stuff. So we're going to go back to Tom and see where he takes us. We kind of mentioned some of the stuff that he's going to lead us into. So let's check this out.
think we all have painful experiences in our past that we now can remember differently. And what I want to talk about today is how we get to that point. What's the process? And there's two things that I want to explore today. The first is the perspective that releases forgiveness, and the second is the power unleashed through forgiveness. Let's talk about that perspective first. Peter, one of Jesus' closest friends, comes to him and asks this question: how many times do I have to forgive somebody? Now, think for a moment about what's the backstory for Peter asking this question. I mean, somebody has hurt Peter over and over and over again. And so Peter's wanting to know, like, how many times do I have to forgive this jerk? And Jesus answers with not a direct, number of times, but he answers with a story, a parable. And it's sometimes called the parable of the unmerciful servant. Watch and listen to this parable.
Let me tell you a story. There was a time when Jesus was speaking to the Apostle Peter, and he told him this story. The kingdom of heaven is like a king who wanted to settle accounts with his servants. As he began the settlement, a man who owed him 10,000 talents was brought to him. Since the man couldn't repay the debt, the servant's master ordered that he and his wife and his children and all that he had be sold in order to repay the debt. The servant fell on his knees and begged him, "Be patient with me, and I will pay you back." The servant's master took pity upon him, canceled the debt, and let him go. But when the servant went out, he saw one of his fellow servants that owed him 100 denarii. He grabbed him and began to choke him. "Pay back what you owe," he demanded. The servant fell on his knees, began to beg him, "Be patient with me, and I will pay you back." But he refused, and instead he went off and had the man thrown into prison so that he could pay back all that he owed. When the other servants saw what had happened, they were greatly distressed. They went to their master and told him everything. Then the master called in the servant. "You wicked servant," he said. "I cancel all of that debt of yours because you begged me to. So why couldn't you show mercy to your fellow servant just as I have shown mercy to you?" In anger, the master turns him over to the jailers to be tortured until he could pay all that he owed.
I love the way that she tells that story. It's absolutely amazing. Of course, the original story of Jesus is an amazing story too. And let's just get the basics down, okay? First of all, who's the king? The king is God, right? And who's the servant? Well, the servant is me, and the servant is you. We're the servants. And then there's the money, right? That's where all the depth of the story is. It's actually in the currency. The servant owes the king 10,000 talents. I mean, that's a lot of money. We're going to dive into just how much in a second. But the servant has got some other poor guy who owes him just 100 denarii, and he's unwilling to forgive him while the king forgives the servant of this 10,000 talents. 1 denarius equals 1 day's wage, and 1 talent equals 6,000 denarii. That's 6,000 days of work. For just 1 talent is 16 and a half years worth of work. Now, according to the 2020 census, the median daily wage of somebody in the United States is $130. $130. So for those of you who want to know how the math works, here's how it works. The median income in the United States is $41,535. Now take that $41,535 and divide it by 52 for the number of weeks in the year, and you get almost $800 a week. Now, let's assume for a moment that you get a day off in a week, so you only work 6 out of 7 days. So $800 roughly divided by 6 is $130 a day. That's how you get $130 a day for the median income of the average family in the United States. So 1 denarius is 1 day's worth of work. That's $130. And 1 talent is 6,000 denarii, so $780,000, almost $1 million.
$1 million.
But He doesn't just owe 1 talent, he owes 10,000 talents. 10,000 talents. So 10,000 times 780,000 is, what is it? $7.8 billion. I mean, that's almost $8 billion. Do you have any idea how much $8 billion? I mean, it's hard to wrap our mind around that. Here's what $8 billion stacked in $100 bills looks like. Now, this is a crazy amount of money. I mean, there is absolutely no way that this servant can ever pay back this king. There's no way that if we have this same debt with God that we could ever pay it back. And what's absolutely humorous about this story is the servant says to the king, "Be patient with me." Be patient. As if the average United States household could ever pay back an $8 billion. I mean, you're talking about 16.5 years worth of work for 1 talent. That's 16.5 times 10,000, whatever that number is. That's a crazy amount of number. I mean, you would have to be exceedingly, abundantly, overflowing with grace to forgive that sort of debt. And thankfully, as Jesus tells the story, that's exactly what the king is like. That's exactly the posture of God towards us, to forgive this astronomical amount. Now, usually in this story, when you're talking about this money and the currency, that's where we stop, is how much we owe to God. But let's take a moment, let's focus on what this other poor dude owes to the unmerciful servant. Now, he owes him 100 denarii. And remember, 1 denarii is 130 bucks. So 100 times 130 is what? $13,000. That's how much it is. This poor guy owes, now that's a lot of money, right? $13,000. Have you ever held $13,000 in your hand? Actually, I have. We used to have a guy who rented first a room in our house in Petoskey, and then he rented the whole house from us while we were in seminary. And he got behind a couple months in his rent, and his name was Alex, and Alex was a Ukrainian-Russian immigrant to the United States. And so he had all of these Russian imperial pennants, these antique Russian imperial pennants. And one day when I was there, he said, "Hey, would you help me sell these on the internet? You know a lot more." Alex was quite a bit older, not very internet savvy, and he's like, "Would you help me sell these, and that'll pay back the back rent and then some." I mean, a lot more. Eventually, I ended up finding a Russian antique dealer in Chicago. So Alex paid me to go to Chicago to sell these Russian imperial pendants to this antique Russian dealer in Chicago, and I decided to make like a whole adventure of it. And I brought my son Micah at the time. I think he was maybe like 3 or 4. And we took the train there, and we had just an awesome time in Chicago. And eventually we met this guy at the Wintrust Bank right off of Lincoln Park. We meet him at this really fancy bank in this really fancy lobby. And I go up to the guy and I say, "Hey, I'm about to do a business deal with this Russian guy." I can't even remember his name now. It was like Vladimir or something. And as I'm talking to the info desk, the guy says, "Is it him?" And I turn around. This was the most stereotypical Russian antique dealer guy. Walked in, blinged out. We get into this circular elevator, and we go down into the basement vault. And this is where the pictures stop, because you don't take pictures in the elevator in this vault. So he pulls out his monocle, it's like this jeweler's monocle, and he examines each one of these, and he looks up at some point with a very grave expression, and he says, "I cannot give you $15,000 for these." And I'm like, "Oh, gee." He says, "This one has a crack." And he gives me his monocle, and I look at it, and yeah, there's a crack in there. He's like, "Well, how much can you give me for him?" And he says, $13,000. Boom, sold. So he gives me $13,000. I got $13,000 in cash and in my hand in Chicago, and I took a train to get there with my 3-year-old, and I'm like, "What? I don't want to get robbed or lose I got to open an account." And I open an account, and I deposit that $13,000 right there in the Wintrust Bank at Lincoln Park. I need to take a picture of this money, because I've never even held this much money in my hand. And so I took a picture. And so if you ever wonder what $13,000 looks like, here's what it looks like. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. And here's a question I have for you. What's the most amount of cash you've ever held in your hand? Let's talk about that.
I love that story. I've heard that story from Tom in different messages several times, and every time he tells it, I learn a little bit more about it. So it's a very interesting story.
Well, if anything, it's my first time hearing this.
Yeah,
So.
yeah.
Well, what's the most amount of money that you've ever had in your hands?
I've had $5,000 cash in my hands. I think that's the most amount. I had done some promotion work and done a couple other months of work. I was saving up to buy a car. I had just moved back to Michigan from New York City, and I needed a car because my old car was dead, so that wasn't going to work out anymore. And I found, a car that I could buy in cash for the $5,000. So we went and had the cash and bought the car.
You just jogged my memory. So I do remember, because Carolyn knows I've been struggling with this question for a little minute. I was like, I don't know how much.
It's hard to remember sometimes, yeah.
Back in the good old days, the 90s.
The 90s.
I had $2,100 and I bought my first car.
Yeah.
It was a Mazda 626, a stick shift.
Yes, my first car was a stick shift too. Yeah.
So that's the last time I had $2,100. That's probably the most cash I've had in my hand.
Yeah. Well, you feel kind of nervous, like walking around, like you got it like in an envelope.
I was so stoked about my little car.
There's an episode of How I Met Your Mother.
Of course there is.
This is a thing. Where Marshall has a lot of money because he's running this like fantasy football league or something, and he's like he goes like walking down the road with the money in my pocket, and he like sees a baby and he goes, "The baby knows he can smell money." I'm like, I would be the same way. I'd be freaking out. I've never had that much cash in my hand.
Yeah.
Never ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'd be too scared to have as much money as Tom had in his hand.
Oh,
I probably would have did the same thing. That was smart.
Yeah, put it in the bank, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't be walking around Chicago with $13,000 in my pocket.
And a kid? No, that's too much
Set
risk.
my bag down and then it's gone.
Renee on Facebook says that she's a teller, so she thinks probably $156,000.
Wow.
Yeah. I guess if you work in a bank, you probably held a lot of
right.
cash.
That makes sense.
That would make sense.
Yeah.
Wow. At one time?
Yeah.
Wow. That's a lot.
I mean, I remember piecing together like 10,000 from a business loan and something else, and I had, but I didn't have it in my hand. I didn't have like the most I've ever had in my hand was a check for like $3,500.
Yeah.
And that was The Voice. When I was on The Voice, they gave you a stipend for doing that. So that's the closest I could, just a few hundred here and there. Never that big. I'm a poor kid, but that's okay.
Right. Yes.
I so bad want to ask you, how was that experience being on The Voice?
Being on The Voice. Did y'all know Lucas was on The Voice?
Yeah. Thank you.
I think it was season 13 you were on?
Yeah, lucky 13.
We're adjacent to celebrity.
Yeah. I live down the road, so that's the funny part. I don't know how celebrity I am.
A local celebrity. Then.
I know when you were on there and you were like, and I'm from Lansing, Michigan, I was like,
yeah. 26 years old. I'm from Lansing, Michigan. But it was a beautiful time. It was a beautiful experience. It was pretty exhilarating and kind of, rushed me by in a lot of ways. Like, it flew. It flew. That was a great year, though, overall, getting to sing with just like my heroes and getting to meet my heroes. Yeah. And I got to sing gospel with Jennifer Hudson.
What's Jennifer Hudson like?
She's from Chicago. She's a powerhouse of a woman, not only with The Voice, but she tells you like it is, She's
I love it.
Like, come on, Lucas. You can do better than that. Like that kind of thing. Like, come on, get it together.
That's what's up.
That's good.
Tom gonna hate us for going down that bunny
Rabbit
trail.
yeah.
No.
We had to ask. But let's continue this conversation.
I think he'll forgive us. Yeah.
Will he?
Oh yeah,
He
absolutely.
should. When forgiveness is impossible, Tom, if you're watching.
He's
That's
preaching
right. Thank
to
you, Tom.
himself.
Yes. All right, let's go back to the message and see where he takes us.
All right, some of you have held a lot of cash in your hands. Some of you barely held any cash in your hands. The most I've held is $13,000. And here's the point of that story. I mean, it's kind of a crazy story, but here's the whole point of it. If I had taken that $13,000 out into Chicago and I had lost it and had to recover that in debt to Alex, pay him back his $13,000, I don't think I could have done it. That's a lot of money. This is the thing about Jesus' story, is that this $13,000, that represents that this poor guy who owes the servant that, he's done something really bad. Like, somebody's done something really bad to you. $13,000 isn't something to just wink at. I mean, most of us, I couldn't absorb that sort of debt and pay it back if I lost it. That's the whole point of the story, is that Jesus is saying, listen, somebody's done you something really bad. So you can either focus on, let's say, like the $13,000 here, that somebody owes you, and if you focus on that, it's a lot of money. Or you can focus on the $8 billion that you owe God, and all of a sudden when you look at that, like, which one are you going to stare at? Which one are you going to focus on? And if you focus on this 13, that looks like a lot of money. But if you focus over here in this 8 billion, this is the perspective that unleashes forgiveness. Which one are you going to focus on? And if I was the evil side of creation, I'd try to get you to focus over here rather than over here. Jesus sets this whole thing up. This is the perspective that unleashes forgiveness. But there's also a power that's unleashed through forgiveness. And I took some time to scour the internet to try to find like a story about the power of forgiveness and how it's unleashed in somebody's life. And I found this absolutely beautiful story of his name's Mike, and he was an ex-neo-Nazi, white supremacist, and he ended up with this black probation officer, female probation officer, whose name is Tiffany. And they end up in this really unlikely friendship. And what I love about this story of forgiveness is Tiffany is a strong woman. I mean, she's his probation officer. She has to hold him to the repair, to the things that he has done in the past. And yet, their friendship ends up in a kind of space of love and forgiveness. Now, you can go watch the whole video online, but here's about 6 minutes of it, okay? So sit back, get comfortable if you're not already. And what I want you to do is I want you to watch for the power of transformation in forgiveness.
Let me ask you, I want to ask you a serious question, Tiffany. Mm-hmm. Why did you believe in me so much? Why did you keep coming back? Why did you want to help me to change? That's not your job. That wasn't your job.
It is my job. That's why I do my job.
Your job is to make sure I'm abiding by all the laws and not messing up, committing crimes, and doing my obligations. But you put forth more of an effort than anybody I've had in my life that actually try to help me. Why? Coming into my house, telling me to get rid of things that I believed in. Mm-hmm. Who the heck are you to tell me to do this? Why did I listen to you?
I asked you to do it. I wanted you to be a better person. And that's why I do my job.
But if you would have seen me a year later, I would have spit on you. I don't understand why you took this time. And you encouraged me to change my life. Mm-hmm. When other peers of my people didn't. Probation officers, parole officers, nobody wanted to help me. Why did you? Why was I your project?
You weren't my project.
No, but it seemed like that because you're there every step of the freaking way, wanting me to continue being better and better, and you pushed me, you strive. Let's get down all these racist things. Let's get down the flags. Let's get down Hitler. Why don't we put up smiley faces? One of the things we talk about all the time, and it makes me laugh, take down all that negative stuff and start putting up positive stuff. So when you go to bed, you have happy thoughts. And when you wake up, you're going to see the smiley faces and you're going to have a positive day. You didn't have to do that. Like I said, I'm a number. I could have been right back, but you made a project. I wouldn't be a good father. I wouldn't have been a good husband. I wouldn't be a man that I am today if it wasn't for your stubbornness. You're willing to push me. I don't get it, but I'm very thankful that day you came to my gate. You opened my eyes to a lot of things. You let me know there is a lot of beauty in this world beyond color, beyond anything. You know, because you showed me more love than I got from my own race, my own culture.
Yeah. I'm not sure if I've ever told you, but I love you. You've helped me. You've changed me.
The things I've did in my past, the people I've hurt.
That's in the past, Michael. You can't.
Listen to me for a second. The children and adults that I've hurt back when I was a child and as an adult, how can somebody love me for that? How can somebody respect me and accept me for the things I've did? That's why I've had all that hate in me. Because who would want me?
God. Man upstairs, you have to believe God has had some strong power, force. I don't know if it's me that had to come into your life to break down those walls, to bring love into your heart. But that's what it is. I honestly believe that.
2 years ago, I would have told you you're a liar. But since I've had time to do things and seeing and being blessed with all the people I've been talking to and meeting, I'm a firm believer of that now. It's just with everything I've been through, I'm actually being at peace with myself. I'm feeling good with myself, and I hate to say it, I got invited to church when my kids were out there, and I felt comfortable and relaxed when I went there. I felt at peace.
These last 5 years, my sense of purpose and faith and with the Lord has grown tremendously. And it's hard for me to understand, fathom, why do I have my clients, not just Michael, but I have a lot of my clients telling me, Tiffany, without you, I wouldn't be where I am. And that's hard for me. I don't understand that. What have I done? But I have the strong belief that the Lord is using me
as a host
for Him. Michael, I'm going to tell you how the Lord feels about you. He sees you He saw you as a young boy. And He's seen you grow into a man. He wants you to spread His word of love, acceptance, forgiveness. And you question how you can be forgiven? He forgives no matter how bad our sins are. You have to forgive yourself. I forgive you.
That's such a powerful story about the transformation of forgiveness. I want to take a moment and let's just talk about it. Where did you see the power of transformation in the forgiveness on display between Mike and Tiffany? Let's take some time to talk about it.
need to take a deep breath. Yeah.
Yeah, that was definitely a powerful last segment. That definitely gave us like an inside look on what forgiveness, repentance, and reconciliation, and love and peace all working together
in an extreme circumstance of pain.
Right.
Too, you know. Not. I always say that no pain lessens or makes another greater. So you know, that was my way of combating. You know, eat your dinner. There are starving children. I'm like, well, yeah, but no pain is greater than. But you know, such a great offense, such a great debt, and she was still.
Yeah.
So powerful in her convictions and her love and her faith.
So where I saw like the transformational power that kind of stuck out to me as I was observing that was definitely love was a component that stuck out in that conversation, is that he called it, you were so stubborn. It was that persistent love,
yes.
of actions that were undeniable to him. And you saw him wrestle with, how could you love me? How could you be so persistent? How could you be helping? And she looked at it just as that was her job. But later on, I understood why she said, you know, she noticed that all her clients were saying the same thing.
Yeah.
And then she realized that God was using her as a conduit for his love, his peace to be, you know, a tool to use. So when God is in the mix, you know, conviction feels different.
When she says, you know,
where he was able to realize for himself where he went wrong. And it kind of ties back to what Pastor Tom was talking about, that it still leaves on the table that, you know, you're still responsible and accountable. It helps us to look at forgiveness in a little bit way that it doesn't release you from accountability, but God and love in the mix, it brings that person back to realizing you are accountable for this, but despite of that, you know,
the work of forgiveness. And very much when she says, you know, that's my job, I totally heard that's my call. Like, that's her call, is to be working toward that and forgiving that, and she's living out into that.
I think a key part of it is, like, when she looks at Michael, she doesn't see a criminal, she sees a beloved child of God.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think that's how she looks at the world, and so that's how she's able to make such a huge difference in those guys' lives.
Right. And it's like I was telling Carolyn when we were discussing this, I know the scripture that comes to mind to me, and I wrote it down in John 13:35, where it says, your love for one another will prove to the world that you are my disciples. And I think that's what he was experiencing, was that love was proving to him that there's a higher power, there's a God that, you know, is here also for him as well.
Yeah, he was convicted by her faith, her love, her forgiveness through God, and now he's comfortable and forgiving himself and growing. Yeah.
I gained a lot of that. I don't know, there's nothing like a woman with real compassion, real, you know, just heartfelt truth to her, where you find, you know, it's kind of like, I mean, it's corny, but in The Preacher's Wife, they talk about look and wonder upon the faces of those you love, for they are the face of God. You find that in somebody that you just wouldn't, I mean, for him, he definitely wouldn't expect it, you know.
Right.
Just, you know, in this whatever, this genetically, whatever, I'm not sure the word exactly, but, you know, just very, he's not used to any kind of diversity, he's not used to any other kind of culture, and he has hate in his heart, and then it's like you needed that kind of mother, you know what I mean? You needed that kind of woman to stand up and be that person, and now all of a sudden he's hugging her, and he just like, you know, there's love there, you know?
Right.
And you can't, only God can bring that, only a higher purpose can bring that, you know?
And we learned that through community with one another and through loving one another in community, and we here at Sycamore Creek want to connect in community with you. And here's some ways that you can do that this week.
Thanks for joining us for the No Offense series. Let's keep connecting. You can take the next steps and fill out prayer requests at sycamorecreekchurch.org/connect. Scan the QR code now or fill it out at your seat. For first-time guests, you'll get a free book, You'll Get Through This by Max Lucado. Make some new friends by joining a small group. Connect, learn something new, grow together, and serve this summer. With groups for all types of people on every day of the week, head to sycamorecreekchurch.org/smallgroups to find something for you. This next week, Friday, May 20th, in the Connection Cafe at South Lansing from 6 to 8 p.m., we'll be tearing it up with DJ Genesis for karaoke night in the cafe. Sing a song, spend time with friends, and have fun with community karaoke May 20th in the Connection Cafe. See you there! Have you sent us your nomination for a community voice amplifier? We'd love to donate to a charity in partnership with them on May 22nd. May 22nd in worship, we'll be raising up that community voice amplifier and giving a gift to a charity in partnership with them. Thank you. Memorial Day Sunday, May 29th, we come together for cross-campus worship at Potter Park Tiger's Den Pavilion at 10:30 a.m. We'll worship together and keep the party going with an open mic with Alexis Rosado, DJ, and free Willie D's barbecue. Connect further with Sycamore Creek's app. Download the app by searching SCCMI on any mobile device. Thank you so much for giving. Head to sycamorecreekchurch.org/give, scan the QR code, or you can put it in those blue buckets in person. Thank you. It makes everything we do possible. Let's take it back to the studio to see the things that your giving has made possible.
Alrighty then. So,
yeah, go ahead and fill out your connection card. You can take those next steps. And this week, we're celebrating our fabulous Easter celebrations. We've finally gotten through all of the counts and all the events, which were so many. It was a huge celebration, and we had 881 Easter interactions this year with people in our church and our community. And you helped make that possible through your giving and all the things that we were able to do because of that. So thank you.
So we got our last question. What are you looking forward to doing or going this summer?
Yeah.
The weather is warming up, and it's still Michigan, so
we're making plans.
Always have your raincoat with you because you never know.
You never know.
But I know one thing I'm excited about is one reason why we brought Lucas and Genesis in is to give you a preview of what you'll have on karaoke night here at the cafe. This is something that Genesis does on a regular out in the community. So we're doing a neighborhood edition over here, and Sycamore Creek is hosting it. So bring your friends, family, yourself, co-workers. We're going to have a good old time. And so while we're answering this question, you're discussing it here, we're going to have Lucas give us one last song called
Let Go, Let God.
Thank you, guys.
Seemed to fall asleep. There was so much on my mind, searching for that peace, but the peace I could not find. So then I kneeled down to pray and help me please. But he said, you don't have to cry, 'cause I'll supply all your needs. Soon as I stop worrying how the story ends. When I let go, when I let God, let God have his way. That's when things start happening. I stop looking at that. Oh, when I let go. When I let God, let him have. There's so much going on. Sometimes I can't find my way, and oftentimes I struggle from day to day. I had to realize that it's not my battle. It's not my battle to fight. I have to know if I put in your hands, everything will be all right. Soon as I stop worrying how the story ends. When I let go, let him have. And as soon as I stop worrying, I stop looking at. That's when I let go, when I let him have, let go and let God, let go and let God, let go, let God, oh, let go and let God, let go and let God, let go, just let God. My brother, you can't handle it, let God. My sister, just let go, let God. Oh, let go, let God, let go, and let God. Oh, let go, let God, let go, let God. He will be there. When all you do is struggle, he'll be right by your side. Long as you let go, just let go and let God. As soon as I stop worrying, all I have to do is, all I have to do is just let it all go. Let him have his way. That's when things start happening. Oh, when I let go of the past, when I look to the present that he's given me, all I have to do is just let go. And God will have his day in all his ways. Soon as I stop worrying, oh, it starts happening. Soon as I let go and let God. Thank you. Thank you, lady.
Thank you, thank you.
Amen. Thank you so much, Lucas and Genesis.
thank
Thank you
you.
so much.
Thank you. Wow.
So when forgiveness gets impossible,
Sometimes it feels a little like this, right?
Yeah.
A little veiled.
Come closer.
oh, the
And
meme
I'll
of the
give
week.
you a
Of
hug.
course, I can
Totally forgive you.
Come closer.
What are you looking forward to doing or going to this summer, Tiffany?
I'm looking forward to getting back to my walks
Yes.
outside.
Yeah.
That was something that I love to do. Oh, I got
Yeah,
somebody out in the
yeah.
audience that love to walk too.
Yeah, maybe walking buddies. Have some
Yeah.
walk together. You know, this week I made a goal to like bike every day this week, or at least get outside and walk every day this week, and I made good on that. And it's been a good experience so far. And then I noticed in the group link, there's a biking group.
Uh-oh.
Yes.
The chick flick group has become the biker chick group, and I was
But
like,
it's not just for chicks.
it's
Betsy
not just for
said.
chicks. It's not just for
anybody.
chicks. Anybody can be a biker chick. Be the biker chick you feel you are in your soul. I'm aspiring
So
to
check
do.
out the
Yeah.
group link, definitely.
Yeah,
There's a lot
definitely.
of good options. I really like the email that went out this week, Tom, showing you all the great qualities of all the group link
All
leaders.
the leaders.
That was
yes.
so nice.
That was great.
Yes.
So you really can't go wrong. Just
I'm excited about it. It's going to be a good summer for connecting together, and I love that.
What are people saying there? Looking forward to doing
No
nothing.
plans?
No
They don't
plans?
like to talk to me sometimes.
Okay, well,
but I'm excited for vacationing, swimming.
That sounds good.
Camping.
We have a friend who has a house with a pool now, and so we're excited
Go to
to
the
spend another
pool.
summer by the pool.
I'm going to Germany.
Whoa!
Ooh,
yes.
you are.
It's gonna be a good time. So yeah, it's gonna be a good summer. I hope you'll have a great summer too.
Hope learned how to bike without training wheels, so that's a big thing for our summer.
Very
We're gonna
nice.
Be biking a lot.
Hit those
Yes.
trails. It'll be a fun time.
We got the same assignment over in our house too.
All right. She can do
Naima
it.
is determined.
Yes, they can do it. Well, next week we start a new series, Raise Your Voice, a series inspired by the book by Kathy Kang.
Yeah.
And we have episode
We also
1.
have that Raise Your Voice nomination, so make sure you
That's
get
right.
your nominations in for that award.
because we'll be giving that award next week. And so tune in next time for Why We Stay Silent with Raise Your Voice. And until then,
Yeah.
be curious,
Be creative.
be compassionate.
And peace out.